To the Green Triangle Networking Breakfast. My name's Mike Dawson. Some people say the mouth of Sauron, but I'm actually the face of CCOMM IT. And I'm going to kick things off here first and foremost, and sort of give you just the briefest snippet. I promise it's only 4 slides. We won't do death by PowerPoint. Of what we do and how we fit into the CCOMM Group. I will then hand you over to Andy Giles, my colleague, who will give you the bells and whistles and all the glorified effects and everything else of some of this stuff, which is pretty amazing. And then following that, I will hand over to Chris Ward from R&D Tax Solutions, who will tie things up, and then we'll have a few games and so on for you to play. What I do need to make you aware of is that we are recording this. It's going out on Facebook Live as well, so shame on you if you didn't visit the beautician. We are having small, I suppose, sweep, but it's internal, don't worry, it's not going to cost you anything. We're going to take bets on who's the first person to knock over our stand there of a few other bits. And whilst we're talking about knocking over things, please don't kick the camera stand, because as I said, we're recording. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about the CCOMM IT side of the group. Where we started, CCOMM as a group started about 20 years ago, and the IT section was really born out of the fact that when you're providing this high level AV solutions and stuff like that, certainly in the early days, you couldn't go to the likes of Shell, BP, Google, and all of the sort of the blue chip companies and say, yes, we've got this fantastic sort of conferencing suite or this boardroom or anything like that, but you need to change the way you do your networking, because our stuff won't work unless you do. Consequently, we had to have some IT engineers that were really, really clever and could actually go into these places and say, right, okay, we'll work the way you work and we'll make our stuff work that way. So that's sort of where we were born. Consequently from there, we got a call of some really, really good IT engineers. And we thought, right, hang on, why don't we do something with this? And IT Solutions was born, and we look after sort of Herts and down through to the city as well. And we cover things like support contracts and consultancy and stuff like that. So let's move on. Quite simply, you can all read, the idea was just to have the best engineers available at the best prices that competed, and just make sure that our customers can not only just, we're all in business, we all want to make money, but at the end of the day, we wanted to have a reputation that people could rely on, and then say, right, okay, you should talk to our IT guy, because it's cheaper to have these guys than it is to have an internal IT department, and that sort of means that we get more engineers. Anyway, we won't go into that, but so the philosophy is quite simple, just to be the best that we can be, and let the business take care of itself, and thankfully it's been quite successful. There's a couple of things that we'll want to touch on from the ecology side. Our solution specialists, basically what we do is we will go out to companies like yourselves and we will sit down with you. We won't just talk about what you need to achieve with your IT goals or anything like that. What we will do is we'll sit down with you and say, right, what's your end game? And we'll work backwards from that. And then we're probably one of the few companies in Herts, other than sort of like the big major IT suppliers, that will sit down with you and say, right, there's an ecological consequence to this. You can't just bash in masses of servers in a data center, but you could do it if you had virtualized machines. You can do that with motherboards that are actually rated to be ecologically friendly. You've got BTU ratings, you've got heat maps and stuff like that, and how that, just literally planning out an office, can have an impact on the ecological footprint of your company. So that's sort of what we cover. And then probably the one that's become much more of a, not a niche, but it's become a requirement that people didn't even know they needed, and now it's becoming critical: security. We've, thankfully, none of our customers yet have been a victim of ransomware that we look after, but we have heard of plenty, and it's growing by the day. So what we do is we do things like external, you may not have heard of this, but it's called a network penetration test. You give us your domain name, something like that. We will set our engineers to try and come into your building, into your network from outside, just like a hacker would, and then sort of, right, what weaknesses and vulnerabilities do you have? Okay, we've exposed this, we've got that, this is how we can get around it, this is how you can lock things down, and we can do that at real core level, code level, on no matter what you've got and how you're running it, and that includes Mac environments, Linux, Unix environments, as well as Windows. So that's really the core of what IT does. And you know, thankfully my presentation's quite short because the stuff you want to hear about is what Andy's going to tell you. So without any further, let me just pass you over to Andy Giles and thank you. All right.
Thanks, Mike.
No worries.
That's it. My presentation up here. That's good. As Mike says, thank you for coming this morning. My name's Andrew from CCOMM. So who are CCOMM? So we're a technology company. Again, as Mike says, we've been around for about 20 years. But we don't just do technology. One of the most important aspects of any technology room is the room itself. So we also understand the room environment. There's no point having best-in-class technology in a room that's not really suitable for it from the usability point of view, ergonomics, etc. So where we started out back in the day, it used to be video conferencing is obviously something that we're very familiar with, but 20 years ago, or it was massively expensive. It really consisted of normally a big CRT tube TV stuck in a corner with a camera on top, and it was massively expensive to deploy. Quite difficult to use, relatively speaking, and you often needed to have a specialist in the room just to facilitate a call. Things have developed a lot more now over the years, but that's where kind of CCOMM started from, and we started to understand that world very, very quickly. And although those rooms were very useful to companies, that was kind of step one of the route to where we are today. And what we've done over the years is then help companies deploy and specify not only video conferencing solutions, but also better ways of working, trying to get people to work more collaboratively and share content. If we look back from where it started to where we are now, back in the day, it was all about just, can you see that person at the other end, wherever they may be, and can you speak to them, can you have a meeting with them? And that was great, and that's still quite valuable to this day. But now things have moved on, and now it's all about really not so much what we call talking heads. You know what people look like at the other end. It's really what are you doing in that meeting, and it's about sharing data and collaboration. And can you make a decision in that meeting? Working together. So by the time you've had the meeting, you don't just walk away, have to write up the minutes and then action it and this, that, and the other. You can actually make decisions in that meeting together. So it's about making things easy to use. I've got just a visual slideshow here of some environments that we've designed for customers. And so when we say meeting rooms, there's lots of different environments really. So a standard meeting room is one way of, that's in an office, you might have multiples of those. But actually, there's other types of rooms. So there's areas like customer experience centres, for example, open space collaboration rooms, there's advanced learning centres, there's what we call town hall areas and other open plan office spaces. And all these need an understanding about how those rooms are going to be used, who's going to use them, how they're going to be designed. So what CCOMM does when we engage with a client, probably the first thing we'll ask them, the client will tell us what they're after, but actually the next step for us is understanding, okay, where are you going to put this facility? What room is it going to be in? How many people are going to use it? Who's going to use it? Are people going to use it once in a blue moon? Are they going to use it every day? All that sort of stuff. And then from that, we can then start looking at visuals and start to design those areas from a usability point of view. And the technology then sits within that. So this wall, for example, here, this is a big collaborative wall, and I'll tell you a bit more about this in a minute. But already on here, it's very easy to use. And if I can just ask you to slide just slightly from that screen, you can see, for example, that as I do that, that window's moving on that screen. And that's an example of collaboration. So although that screen's located about 5 foot away from this wall, that screen could actually be anywhere in the world. So that could be sitting in an office in New York or whatever. And so when we're having a meeting, we can all be engaged and we can all be sharing the same content, which is quite nice. And I can, resize it, and I can do all this. And I can also bring extra content into this room very easily. I can bring websites into it, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. We can also start to annotate and make decisions. So let's say we were talking about this room, for example, and we were having a meeting. We could start to make notes, and we could say, well, actually, that's quite interesting, I like that, etc. And in a moment, that will start to appear. You can see it on here. We can actually see we've got the annotation on this screen as well, so we can both share what we're talking about. We could also bring in a video conferencing element to this, so we could be talking via audio, but we could also have a video window here, which I haven't actually gotten here this morning, where you could see the person at the far end that you're talking to. It could be a group of people, so you could be sharing information across, 50, 60 people in that meeting at various sites. And I can also come in remotely via a laptop or an iPad. So if I come on here and just refresh this. So this is my iPad, and I just need to go into the same workspace that I'm in. And now I'm on my iPad, again, that can be anywhere in the world, and I can be, if I do that, someone else is in it as well at the moment, so they're moving windows around. But that information can be shared remotely, and I should, if I do this, sorry, if I do stop following me. Typically live TV, someone else must be accessing it up north. We have an Aberdeen office, so someone else is in that. So if I close this down, I'll leave that in a minute, that will come back. That's typical. But I can actually access that same content wherever I am. So you could be on a laptop, we could be on iPads, we could be at various screens, and we can just share all this information and data ourselves. So this is where technology has brought us from. It's gone from talking head solutions back in the day, TV in the corner, through to big collaborative environments where you can share content and make decisions, which is really what this is all about. That's the key to this. Technology-wise, technology itself has become very mature. So again, big display panels have come down in price massively. So even 10 and 15 years ago, not that long ago, big screens were thousands of pounds, very expensive to deploy. But nowadays you can have big interactive touch panels like this that start just from a few £1,000s. So the price of entry into the technology piece is a lot more appealing and easier for a lot more companies to deploy. A big screen, this one here is a 65-inch touch screen. Probably 10 years ago, a screen like that would have been in the order of £10,000 to £15,000 just for the screen. Nowadays, a screen like that is from a couple of £1,000s. So, that is something that opens the door to a lot more companies. And as you can see from here, you don't need big screens, you can have mobile access, etc. as well. Now, bear with me just a minute, I'm just going to see if they've stopped doing that. Hopefully. Let's cancel that. Done. Yeah, that's fine. I'll leave that there. That's good. And then I can come back here. So let's just deselect these. Sorry about that. So the workspace is live. So when you're having a meeting and you want to now start to bring other content into the workplace, we can then go on and we can bring other items into this workspace. So for example, I could bring in a web browser and I could bring in a website. So I've now brought our CCOMM website into this environment. It's come into the workflow, and now we're all sharing the website, and we can start to comment on that. If someone comes into the meeting ad hoc and they've got their own laptop and they haven't had a chance to load their content onto the screen, they can bring their laptop in, and we can put their laptop in, and we can bring in a live source. So we can set live source, and that's actually a laptop input. I can select that, and if there was a laptop connected, that would appear on this window here. So that would be a laptop that's come into this meeting now. So we can bring extra content into the environment and start to use it. Let's just get rid of that. And we've also got things like post-it notes, for example. So we can add, if I go into tools, we can bring up a post-it note, sticky note. We've got a post-it note, and we can stick something on there. and we can make notes as per usual, and we can, if I just get my pen up, and I'll give it some of that, and I can go and just start to write, and there's my post-it note. So there's my post-it. Once you've had the meeting, instead of having to go away and make notes and and then issue it out to all the attendees, we can take a snapshot of the whole meeting as a record. So before you leave the room, you can have a record of this whole screen. So I can, if I go to Tools and I go Take Snapshot, and I'll call that Workspace 1. If I save that, now what I've got is a snapshot of that whole screen instantly. And then when I want it, I can just share that to everybody who took part in the meeting. So I can hit that, send it to myself, or that could be a group of people, and in a minute my phone will buzz. And now before I've even left the meeting room, everybody's got a record of the meeting. So that is a brief little example about how collaboration can work today. Picking up on a couple of things that Mike was saying about security. Security is a big issue this day and age, and you've got, a lot of corporates come to us and say, look, we need this sort of solution, but deployment could be quite challenging because a lot of people, have technology like this deployed in the cloud this day and age, sensible, so it makes all this content available globally. But then the next question they ask is, that's great, but then how do we deploy that securely? Which is a big thing. Especially we deal with a lot of financial houses and other people of similar ilk who have very sensitive information. And actually, it doesn't have to be a big global. Most companies have security issues. So, and that's where some research and development come in. So we would then work with the IT team to work out the best way to deploy it, whether it's on premises locally, or whether it's in the cloud, or if it's a hybrid. So that's something that's easily achievable. So that's kind of collaboration, and after this I'll let you come up and have a play on the wall yourself. It's very easy to use and you can get the gist of how this works. Do that. Now I just want to come out of that one and I want to go into this one here. So this is another workflow. I'm just going to do that, and then it will appear on that screen as well. So I've talked briefly about collaboration and the modern day of working, moving away from talking heads to actually collaborative data sharing so you can make decisions quickly in meetings. The more conventional meeting room still exists, and again, design is important. So one of the CCOMM have come up with a range of products that we call Urban, and what these are very slick, well hopefully you agree they look quite slick meeting room environments, of which that TV is in one of them. So one of the constant challenges of any corporate is that they say, right, we need to revamp our technology, we've got 15, 20 meeting rooms, whatever it may be. And one of the main problems with it, I bet we've all had experience, is that sometimes you can go into a meeting room and you booked a meeting room out for an hour and you want to do a laptop presentation, and you can spend 15 minutes of that session trying to get your laptop up on the screen, and then all of a sudden you're under pressure anyway, and you at least want to get your and all the rest of it. So what you really want to be able to do is just walk in and plug your laptop in and it works, and then you can have your meeting, and then you're done and you walk away and you feel great. And that really is the basis of, if you can't even get that done, there's no point having any of this stuff because it's just totally irrelevant. And then more than that, it's about getting some consistency on the deployment. So one of the things you don't want as well, you don't want to go into various meeting rooms and they all work differently, because that's a waste of time. Because unlike when you're at home and you know how to use your telly, use it every single day, in a corporate environment, you may only use that meeting room once a month. And so you've got, I can't remember how to use that. So you want a degree of consistency and usability. So the Urban range of systems is all about that. So these were a range of solutions of single screen, twin screen systems, but they all have a consistent look and feel to it. So when you walk into the room, you've got the same looking control panel, you hit a button, it turns on, you plug your laptop in, it just comes up. When you want to launch a video conferencing call, you just hit a button and it just works. And what we've done is basically we've looked at that environment and packaged it up in nice looking, we believe, frames with all the equipment stored locally. So all the equipment is actually stored in these pods behind the scenes. And so from a service deployment point of view, whoever's looking after the systems, it's very easily maintainable. And these solutions can be deployed not only in meeting rooms, but we work in the retail space, so we've got customers who deploy these, in customer-facing areas, where people might want to come up and, use it as a touchscreen wayfinding systems in shopping centres, car showrooms, so car configurators are very popular on these sorts of screens. So it adds a lot of wow factor, but meeting rooms, customer-facing environments, all different shapes and sizes. This is the concept really of Urban. So this is a product that we've launched heavily over the last couple of years, and people are liking the approach. But the main reason they're liking it is because of the consistency, the ease of use, and that's really what it's all about. Just talking a little bit more about the Urban frame, if I just show you on this one here, you can see that we've got various colours here, and as Mike said, on that table there are just examples of some of the different finishes and colours that we can actually make these storage systems in, which is quite nice. And there's an exploded version of what goes in it. So we've got the display, which can be any display, video conferencing camera, speakers, equipment storage. It's all deployed locally, and it's something that can be built off-site and deployed in a day. So all that happens is, one of the big things on site is facilities. So when you want to deploy 15 meeting rooms, you've got to talk to the facilities people to help. We've got to hang a screen there, so that wall's got to be strengthened. We've got to get power data and all that extra stuff, which sometimes isn't considered fully. There's extra cost there, there's extra time, there's extra project management, the whole lot. With these sorts of solutions, all that's required is power and data in the floor. It's all built off-site. Come in, plonk it down, it's installed in a day. So there's massive savings to be made there as well. So as well as doing what I mentioned at the beginning, the big room environments, we also do kind of simpler, if you like, more standard meeting room environments as well. And that's what we call the Urban range of systems. And I suppose, lastly on that is support. So technology always needs a bit of support, no matter what you deploy, whether it's PC, software, video conference, whatever it may be. And again, all our systems here can be deployed and supported remotely. So we have a help desk here, so that where customers allow us to, we can dial in remotely and deal with any issues as a first line should there be any problems arising. Now and again someone will come in and they may not be able to get their laptop on the screen as quickly as they want. Instead of having to, have we got somebody who can come in, they can ring us up, we can actually dial in remotely and actually control the system and see what it's doing remotely here, anywhere in the world, and we can actually then make, in most instances, sort it out for them so they can get on with their meeting. That's it there. And finally, I'm just going to go back to this one here. Let me just get rid of that. There we go. Just get rid of that as well. That's cool. So finally, I suppose just to wrap up, because what I want to do is, after we finish with our talks, I'd like you to come up and have a play and we can talk further about some of the specific kit that we use here. As I say, just to wrap up, CCOMM are all about the full wrap. So we understand the technology piece, but we also understand the room environment, and we also understand the support element as well. So it's about, we're here to try and make life easier for people deploying technology, and hopefully we understand that well quite nicely. We've been doing it for quite a long time. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Guess that's me then.
Yeah, sorry, I'll load up your...
Thank you very much.
That was the old James Bond film, wasn't it?
Good morning, everybody. Two things I didn't know when I was set up to do this presentation was, one, I'd be broadcast to the nation, and two, that when I did do that, I'd be doing something in the Minority Report and throwing things around and trying to work out stuff. So, it's a bit nerve-wracking. But this is me, Chris Ward, RD Tax Solutions. So we are research and development tax specialists, and that's basically all that we do. That seems to be the end of the presentation. Let's just have a look. Yes, it is. That's the beginning. So it's about adding value to your business. So R&D Tax Relief, it's a government tax initiative to give innovative companies money back for costs incurred in this area of their business. So it's not like a Jimmy Carr tax scheme. This is actually legislation. Types of qualifying R&D expenditure include staff costs, software, utility costs, and any subcontracted work and materials. So, if you engage someone like CCOMM IT, whilst a lot of their stuff is plug and play, you can drop it in and they've done all the work, there might be some integration things that you need to think about, making one system talk to another, and that's where you might incur some R&D costs. So this is what HMRC defines as qualifying R&D. Where there's scientific advantage, technological advantage, there's an improvement in overall knowledge and capacity and an appreciable improvement. So we're looking for projects where we can attach something like that to. Now, the perception, if anyone says R&D, you're probably going to be thinking white coats, laboratories. It's not just that. It's really about business transformation, change and growth. Anyone looking to grow their business is probably looking to do something innovative, something they've not done before, perhaps something that's not been done in the industry before, and therefore they're pushing the boundaries, and that's what HMRC is looking to reward businesses in doing. So here's a brief snapshot. I won't go through every single piece of the figures on here, but in 2015, out of all the limited companies in the UK, that's the number of claims that were made, 18,965. Now that doesn't actually relate to one claim for one company. Actually, we can go back 2 financial years. So right now, probably coming up to March year end for a lot of companies, actually if you've not done a claim before, we can go back and look at your 2015 accounts, 2016 accounts, and we'll look at 2017 as well. So in some of that figure, there are companies making 3 claims. So if you can imagine how many companies are in the UK, that figure relates to less than 1% of all companies in the UK. Less than 1% are actually making an R&D claim. But there's a lot of money involved. Just in that figure, that's how much money went back to those businesses. Bit of a breakdown there of what the various industries are. You can see manufacturing, you'd probably assume is quite a heavy one, and it is. But information and communication. So in that 26%, that's not just IT companies, that is other businesses employing IT and coming up with new solutions to make their business work better. Some people might recognise this guy. If you don't recognise him, you probably recognise what he's sitting on because you've tripped over them a million times in airports and railway stations. This guy famously went into the Dragon's Den and the Dragon said, "We're out." Well, HMRC said, "We're in." Because of all the development work and all the money he'd spent on something as simple as a children's suitcase, he was able to then go on and develop further products because HMRC gave him money back. And this is an HMRC poster. This has been up in railway stations and on A-roads and things. He is their poster boy. And this is really just to demonstrate that HMRC want to give this money back to you, but you've actually got to get up and say, well, we've done the work, please give us the money back. I won't bore you with exactly what this is, but this is the formula that HMRC work on. But suffice to say, for a company paying 20% tax, for every £100,000 you spend, you get £26,000 back. They put a formula on it. They actually give you a bit of they apply an accelerator, which means they'll say your R&D pool is a little bit bigger than you've actually spent because they're trying to promote this. But for every £100,000, you get £26,000 back, and that's as tax credits. So this is cash back into the bank account. Some qualifying sectors, there is no sector that doesn't qualify because within your business, something you do, be it on the software side of things or on the environmental side of things, if you're looking at reducing waste, you might be coming up with innovative ways to do that. So it doesn't have to be around your core product. This is something within your business that is looking to help the business grow. Again, can qualify. So pick any sector and it could be on that list. A couple of case studies. So I'll try and rattle through these fairly quickly for you. Areas of R&D for a cab company, AutoCAD booking system, bespoke IT systems. Again, a lot of integration work with the back office, but also Oyster type payments. They spent £297,000 on it, a cab firm, and they got back 76,000. Bespoke vehicle tracking systems, you might find haulage companies actually have a lot of bespoke vehicle tracking systems. They all qualify. Food industry, actually this counts for, it can count for restaurants as well, but when we're looking at foods and the longevity of food, heat testing, molecular reaction testing, flavour development time, oxygen exposure time, there's all sorts of things that go into food manufacture. Particular company here, they put £157,000 of R&D costs and they got £38,000 back. I'm dealing with a couple of companies at the moment that come into more of these things, so adding nutrients to certain foods, vitamins and minerals, and recreation of taste. So when you're looking at gluten-free products and you're looking at allergy-controlled products, actually you're trying to create something that was made in a particular way, but as you're taking out some of the ingredients, you're trying to recreate the taste and flavour and texture and all those kind of things. That's R&D. Breweries, my favourite companies to go and see. Again, on the environmental side of things, there's a lot of water treatment that goes on with breweries. You know, their product might be made in the same way for hundreds of years, but actually what they do with waste products can be very important to the local environment. We're talking about sustainability and environmental factors. What they do with their waste, pH levels, enhanced knowledge of key staff members. That one was an interesting one. Usually things in what the HMRC terms as humanities type projects don't go through, but actually they built a whole interactive learning program, and it was the software that they developed for that and how they delivered it to their members of staff that actually came under the R&D costs. And this one, 89,000, 24,000 back. Software development we've talked about, but this company, their turnover £300,000, but their costs for R&D £475. That gave them £100,000 back. So that's a massive influx of cash that they can do whatever they want with. Really, you can pay yourself, or you can actually invest in new products. That's really what HMRC is trying to drive, is investment and growing businesses. But IT is a really good one for most businesses, but it's one that HMRC pays very particular attention to because there's a lot of spurious claims going through them, and whilst the legislation hasn't changed, HMRC's view has tightened. So you need a specialist to go in there, be it me, be it, your accountant, if he's got that knowledge. They have to go in there and really scrutinise what you're doing in the software side of things, but there is some big money to be had in that one. Exhibition cabinets, a silly one. You might not think much of R&D goes on there, but design and development of a unique plinth. There was a specific weight requirement from a client, and a way they wanted it displayed, and they just basically went to the manufacturer, we need that, and the manufacturer said, I have no idea how we're going to do this, because the kind of weights they were talking about and how they wanted it displayed seemed impossible. But they put a lot of R&D time in there, and again, a relatively low turnover against the amount of claim they had. So £500,000 turnover, R&D costs 93,000. There was a lot of staff costs that went into that, and the client benefit was 19,000. So again, rattle through these very quickly, but frequent comments and question. I don't think this applies to me. Well, if you're a limited company and you're paying corporation tax, it might well do. Have a look at what you're doing. Ask me to come along. Ask your accountant. There's a lot of stuff that you might be doing that you don't realise if you've tried to push your business forward, if you're looking to grow it, if you have grown it, what have been your major costs and can they be claimable? Sounds too good? It sounds wonderful. £100,000 and £26,000 back. But as I said, it's not a scheme. This is legislation. This is legislation, and it's an entitlement for you. You should be claiming it if you're eligible. My accountant can cover this. Many accountants can cover this, and please go to your accountant and talk about it. But also many accountants can't, because the analogy I always use is If I've got a problem with my heart, I will go to my GP, but God help me if he starts operating on me. If I go to my accountant, and he's a general practitioner, as a lot are, he does not have the experience to do R&D. It's just not what he does on a day-to-day basis. So you need to be employing a specialist to get the right result. It's about paying, the correct professional to get the result that you're after. So don't always think your accountant can do it, and if your accountant has said you're not applicable for it, just have a little think to yourself, is this something he will have come across in his day-to-day life? Has he studied the tax guidelines? Because 9 times out of 10 it's probably not something he's too familiar with. Great idea, but it sounds like it could take a long time. So the way we work, we would expect a turnaround of about 12, 13 weeks. That's from the moment you engage us to the moment you get money back in your bank account. And I don't know about you, but getting money from the HMRC within 3 months sounds pretty quick. And in terms of what it would cost you as a business, in total we spend about half a day with you. I've not put the client journey up there and exactly what it does mean, but we speak to the people involved in the project. So it might be the MD, it might be the FD, it might be a project manager. But half a day is what we spend with your business to get all the facts, figures, all the information to be able to convert that into a format that HMRC will accept as a claim. Our average claim is around £42,000. That's, again, cash back into your account. So half a day to get £42,000 back, I think is probably quite a good investment. Great idea, but let's look at it in a few months. As I mentioned earlier, we can go back 2 financial year ends, and I'm concentrating on March year end at the moment. If I don't get that claim in before April comes around, 2015 is lost. So let's look at it in a few months, fine, but not if your year end's coming up. Because it's like walking around with expenses receipts in your pocket and not cashing them in. Why would you do that? Why are you allowing HMRC to walk away with money that you could claim back? So let's look at it now, because it is basically an immediate cash credit, and then when your financial year end comes around, we'll look at that one for you. A little bit about us, because you probably haven't heard of us before, but 10,600 cases we've done over about 3 years. Offices based in Manchester and London. I'm based out of the London office, although I live in Bedfordshire, so this is well within my area. We put the ISO certification on there because we want you to know we are serious about our business and how we deal with you and your data. And we are CPD accredited. Now, another side of our business is capital allowances, which I won't bother talking about now, but when I go out and deliver presentations, it does count towards CPD marks. So I go into accountancy firms, and we partner with many accounting firms, and I'll be some of their CPD. Team of 70 staff, involved in successful claims for over 14 years. That relates to the CATAC side of things. We're an R&D partner to the Institute of Engineering and Technology and ACCA, IFA. For the capital allowances side of things, we're an affinity partner to the ICAEW, endorsed partner of the Law Society, and our lead auditor sits on the HMRC steering committee for research and development. So every 2 months, he goes in, talks to HMRC about how they're viewing policy, what issues they've seen come up. So we are at the very forefront of knowledge for R&D. These are some of the partners we work with, just to give you a flavour. AIB Bank has come on board fairly recently, and the National Pharmacy Association. Here is an interesting point where you think pharmacy, you might be thinking of the development of drugs. Well, this is actually the front end. This is the pharmacist that you go into. There are many, many pharmacists out there that are implementing new IT systems for stock, for customer service. They might have multiple branches where they're looking at those kind of things. They're doing a lot of bespoke IT solutions that they're paying for off their own back to give them an advantage, and that's where we're getting a lot of business from them. Qualification, if you were to come for us very quickly, you've got to be a limited company. We look for £1 million turnover and 10 plus staff. We're a commercial organisation. If you hit that figure and that figure, we think that you're probably going to be doing a good amount of R&D, even if you don't think you are. But overriding that, we looked for £50,000 of R&D costs across 2 years. And that's really it. So if we've got time for questions, I can answer any questions you have. But that's a very basic R&D tax rundown.
Brilliant. You want to tie things up, Tara? No?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much.
Right, well,
Thank you.
okay. Well, if I can just jump in there quickly, what we'll do is we'll just set up a couple of screens where you can have sort of play and the rest of it, and enjoy and natter and catch up and card swap and everything else. And thanks very much for coming. That's about it.
Thank you.